everyone. Welcome back to Performing Academy's Friday Night Q&A series. I'm Haley Alicia Mason, Performing Academy teaching artist.
And I'm Rena Wilson, Executive Director and co-founder of Performing Academy. We are so excited to bring you tonight's Q&A series with Bay Area native actress Courtney Iventosch, who's now in the company of Wicked on Broadway.
And don't miss our Live from the Living Room on Sunday at 7 p.m. featuring some of our all-star PA students and alumni, Jocelyn Purcell, Spencer Purdy, Taylor Wade, and Michaela Sassner.
We started Performing Academy, formerly La Marinda and Castro Valley Theater Academies, in 2011. Our mission is to help students cultivate confidence in themselves through singing, acting, and dancing. That mission continues even through this shelter-in-place as we offer virtual training, including training with our guest, Courtney Iventosch. She will be teaching tap for us this summer, so don't miss this incredible opportunity to keep up your training. Now is the time to strengthen your skills, so when theaters reopen, you'll be stronger than ever. We also want to remind you that we love doing these Q&As and our Facebook Live series, but we need your support. So please consider donating to Performing Academy through Venmo or send a check to our studio. Every little bit helps to keep the arts alive. All right, without further ado, I want to bring in my dear friend, Courtney Iventosch. Come on in, Courtney. So Courtney and Renee and I met each other many, many moons ago. Courtney is a Bay Area native, and she's going to talk about all of her experience growing up in the Bay Area. But I just want to start the evening or the afternoon by sharing some awesome photos of Courtney and Renee and I from back in the day when she lived in the Bay Area and we were all performing together. Here is Courtney here on the left and Renee here at the top in AMT, which is a company in San Jose, in their Beauty and the Beast. And I remember watching you guys in this and I was so amazed by your talent.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much.
Of course. And then here's Courtney and myself and our dear friends Mary Kalita and Amy Nielsen in a 42nd Street. This was one of the promo shots from CCMT's 42nd Street. And this is how we became friends. It was doing this cute show.
Yes.
And then this is another AMT show, correct, Courtney?
Yes, the same Beauty and the Beast with Renee also. Renee's not in this photo, but it was the same production.
That is so fun.
So fun. Thank you for sharing those.
Well, thank you so much for being here today, Courtney, and to come and talk to everybody about your experience as a Broadway performer and your training leading up to where you are today. So if you can share with everybody a little bit about your background.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. Hello to everyone. Hope you're all safe and well. It's a pleasure to be here today. Yes, so I was born in Oakland, and then spent some of my growing up years in the Bay Area, and then did a lot of my formal training up in the Auburn area because my family moved north. So growing up, I was at the dance studio all the time, a bit of a studio rat, you might say, taking dance classes. I did some singing lessons, a little bit of acting. I was in the band, kind of like dipping my toes in all of the artsy things. And I, through high school, I studied at Pamelot School of Dance in Auburn, California. And then went off to college and kind of began that training process. My first year of college was at UNR in Reno, and then I transferred to San Jose State, where Rena also went, which is kind of fun. And I finished my college years there with additional training, and of course continuing to train, all the time as best I can.
That's fantastic, Courtney. I'm sorry, my sound did something funny there for a
Oh.
I apologize.
Oh, no worries at all. No worries.
Quite a journey. I love that we both went to San Jose State. Can you share a little bit about your San Jose State experience?
Absolutely. Yes, it's I had such a good time at San Jose State. I to be completely honest, I wasn't quite ready to go away to college. I realized in my first year. So I had a really hard time in Reno, which is why I transferred. And San Jose State was perfect for me. I loved the dance program. I loved my degrees in business. So I was a part of that, the business school, which was also a great program. And there's now a bigger musical theater program, but at the time it was kind of beginning. And so I was in a company there at San Jose State in the dance school called Company One, led by Janie Scott, who is brilliant. And she directed us in kind of, it was a class, but also we learned, but we also performed. So we did performances twice a year. And it was spectacular. I loved all of the classes. I loved it all. So my experience there was completely positive. I really.
Now, going to a state school, and what were you studying besides musical theater?
Yes. So my specific degree is in business with a concentration in finance. So those were kind of that was my actual like major. And so dance actually was a minor that I had. And it was sort of by default. I didn't really set out to have a dance minor or a musical theater minor, but I loved taking the classes and I wanted to keep training. So it kind of ended up in one. But yes, the business school was where I spent a lot of my time as well, taking all of the finance classes and all of the other prereqs and stuff. So I was kind of split my time between the two kind of departments, but I loved it. And, as you know, it's a big commuter school. A lot of people are living at home if they're from the area. And I was not one of them, but I had such a good time. And the fun thing I thought about it was that, we still had sports and we had kind of the college feel, which I thought was great. So I enjoyed it. I loved it.
I felt just the same. I was like in a sorority and had
Yes.
a college experience.
Yes, totally, which is so fun. So I'm very grateful for that.
Me too. I feel just the same. And I think sometimes people think like you have to go to a big name school in order to have a career in the performing arts. But you are case in point. You've had an incredible career in the performing arts and in musical theater, and you didn't go to a huge musical theater school. So it's really about the training and
Absolutely. Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think it's fantastic that both you and I went to, San Jose State, which is a great school. But it's, it doesn't have necessarily the same caliber or ring to it as some of the conservatory programs for musical theater. But I agree. I think it's really just about your training. And, I think if you have the right attitude and the right mindset and you're kind of focused and dedicated, like we both were, then you'll figure it out no matter where you go.
I totally
and no matter what field too,
I could not agree more, Courtney. So Courtney, tell us a little bit more about life after college. So what did you do after you left San Jose State?
Yes, great question. So I actually, funny enough, I stayed in the Bay for about a year and a half. And actually, so meeting you, well, I met Renee when we did Beauty and the Beast, and that was my senior year of college in the spring. So about this time, actually, back in 2008. And then I stayed around the Bay for the next almost 2 years. And actually through Renee, I auditioned for 42nd Street, which we got to do together, which was so fun. So I stayed in the Bay. I did 42nd Street with you. We did a few other shows together. And I kind of just got experience, kept trying to take classes and, voice lessons and work on all of those things. Meanwhile, I was working on a contractual basis for a high-tech company in Sunnyvale, just outside of San Jose. And so I was kind of doing both of those things. And then eventually I kind of was encouraged to kind of test out what this New York thing was. And I actually went to a like kind of intensive called Broadway Theater Project. I went there in the summer of 2009, and it was a great experience for many reasons, but one of them being that they brought casting directors down from New York, and you kind of got to network and connect with people. And a couple of them ended up actually encouraging me to audition for a couple shows that were coming up, which prompted me to kind of set up a trip to go visit New York. So I did that in the fall of 2009, actually right after we did On the Town together. And that was kind of my like trial, like, let's see what happens. So I stayed with my dear friend Dasha, who's still a dear friend of mine, and we both went to San Jose State as well, and stayed on her couch for many weeks. I was very grateful, still am. And that was kind of the like sort of jumping off point. And I was like, okay, I kind of get this, I can figure this out. I'll go back to California, but then I could maybe move here and see how it goes. So that was sort of my like interim time.
And then when did you eventually move to New York and then start auditioning for regional theater?
Yes. So I, funny enough, during that little time period when I was kind of testing the water, visiting in the fall, I auditioned for a lot of stuff. Because as most of us know, you have to audition for so many things before you hear a yes or anything kind of resembling that. So I went to these auditions that the casting directors from Broadway Theater Project had brought me in for. Did terribly. I was cut right away for both of them, and I was like, I don't know if I'm cut out for this. But I kept going to auditions while I was there, and I was really fortunate. I went to an audition for La Cage aux Folles, which was a production happening down in Florida the next like January. And I ended up getting cast in that show, which got me my equity card, my union card. So I was like, okay, great. And that's La Cage aux Folles, which was so fun. I'm the second from the left in that first picture, and then I think I'm the second from the right in that picture. And it was such a blast. It was so much fun. I got my union card, so there were a lot of new things for me, a lot of learning, but it was great. And so I right before I got cast in that, and I came back to California. I did A Christmas Carol, and then I was like, okay, I've got this Florida gig. So I went to Florida, I did that. And after that, I was like, okay, I think now I'm ready to move to New York. So I moved to New York in February of 2010. And that was the first like one-way ticket I bought. I was like, okay, here we go. Have my suitcases. And I got to New York. It was February, so it was cold. It was right after my birthday. And I got there, and it was a huge snowstorm. I was like, well, here we go. Welcome to New York. This is it. But it was good.
And tell us about, I'm gonna pull up another fun picture.
Yes.
Tell us about this one here. This is one of my favorites. This is awesome. Hi, beautiful kick. Courtney is a fierce dancer.
You're so sweet. Thank you. Yes, Rita, we were just talking about this photo, and it's so funny because I think it's just hilarious. My mouth is so wide open. But this is from a production, actually, funny enough, this segues right into it. My first gig out of New York, once I moved there, was On the Town in Seattle at the Fifth Avenue Theater. And that was what this photo is from. And it was in the spring of 2010. So I went there and I did this show, and this is, for those of you who maybe don't know the show, Ivy is, can be a little bit silly, and at this point she was kind of ignoring her vocal teacher and getting a little bit, excited and kicking, losing her decorum a little bit, but that's what this photo's from. And this one is actually from On the Town as well. A few years later, I did the same role in On the Town in Sacramento at Music Circus, which is now known as Broadway at Music Circus. But I did that in 2014, the summer of that year. And that is actually from that same season. I played Babette in Beauty and the Beast, which was kind of fun. It was actually my second time doing Beauty and the Beast, and it was the same choreographer and director as the time when Renee and I did it, which was great. So it was so fun to revisit. And that was in 2017 in the summer. That's all of our enchanted characters, which was just a blast. And that's from On the Town as well that summer, in one of the Dream Ballet sequences with dear friend Sam. Sam Lips was Gaby holding me up there.
So gorgeous. How
Oh,
about this
thank you.
one?
Yes, this is so fun. This was from Sweet Charity, which I did in the spring of 2014, right before that Sacramento season. And it was so much fun. That's actually Angie Schwar, who is brilliant. She was just in The Prom on Broadway playing Angie. I like to say, you've made it when there's a role that's written as you. She's brilliant, and we actually did we've done a couple shows together, but she's fabulous. So anyway, that's what that fun picture's from.
And this I love.
Isn't that fun? That one is from my friend Mark Miller took that photo, and that was from also in Sacramento. We were doing a production of South Pacific, and those are a couple of my friends. Brian on the left, he actually was just in Frozen. And then my friend Luke on the right, and he's done a bunch of stuff, including he tours with Harry Connick Jr. doing Tap, which is really cool. So anyway, that's what that one was from.
And then this one must be on The Town as well.
Yes, that's on The Town as well. The Seattle production I did.
Beautiful. Well, Courtney, so after you did regional theater, then what was your road to Wicked?
Yes, great question. So I did some of those shows. On The Town was kind of the next step in line, and I did on The Town in Seattle. I loved Seattle. I had so much fun. I almost didn't go back to New York, and I was encouraged to go back. I had just gotten there, but so I went back to New York, and I actually had a really, really rough summer. I auditioned, and I was just feeling very dejected. I didn't know what was what, and I went into an audition for Wicked, which I had gone in for. I believe it was during my trial period back in the previous fall. I had gone to a Wicked audition. It might have been earlier in the spring when I moved there. But at any rate, I went to a call and I got cut right away. So I was kind of discouraged a little bit from going the second time when I saw that there was an audition. They were looking for an immediate replacement on the national tour for a swing. And I didn't really know what any of that meant. But I was like, do I go? I didn't really go so well. And I was like, oh, I'll go. It's fine. I'll try again. And of course, I'm very grateful I did. So I went in, and this particular audition was a dance call. So I went in, I danced. They brought a bunch of us in a couple days later to what's called like an invited call. So a bunch of us did the same dancing. And so we're in like a big studio, like you would be at your, performing academy, and we're a bunch of dancers, and we're all dancing, and we did some choreo from the show, and then they made a cut, probably about half of the people. We probably started with like 60, I would say, that day. And then they sang us. So we all sang material from our book, and then we did a little bit more dancing, and they made cuts after each of these. We did some partnering. And because it was for a swing track, which I'll talk about in a second too, we had to do a bunch of stuff. So they had to hear us do scales and different parts. So anyway, that was kind of the process that day. And it ended with about 6 of us. And we were like, okay, great. And they were like, we'll let you know. And I was so fortunate because oftentimes you wait forever to hear anything, if you hear anything. And I was actually still at Ripley Greer is where the audition was. I was actually still there packing up my stuff when I got a call from Telsey, who cast it. So I found out very quickly, which was really, really nice because I didn't have to wait long. Because often like, well, do I forget about that one? Do I hold out hope? What do I do? So that was kind of how that happened. And then like a week and a half later, I was off to Minneapolis with some suitcases and, ready to go.
Wow, that's so exciting. So can you tell everybody, what is a swing? So what did you get hired to do for Wicked?
Yes, great question. So a swing is, and it's a very good question because I didn't know going into it. I was like, I don't know what that means. But what a swing is someone who basically understudies a bunch of parts. It's an offstage track, meaning that you're not necessarily in the show every night, but you could be. And you cover a bunch of different things. So in Wicked, I covered 9 girls, the 9 ensemble women. And you basically learn all of those parts, and then you have to be ready to go on for any of them at any given time. So some of them might be planned, like if someone has a personal day or a vacation, something like that. And then some of them, people get sick or people get hurt, that kind of thing. So you're kind of there to kind of be backup for everybody. So we're always in the building, unless we ourselves have a personal day or are sick. We're always there, just not always in the show. So that is what I got hired to do, which was a blast. It was so fun.
So how many tracks did you cover? And by tracks, I mean roles. How many roles did you cover in total in Wicked, the national tour?
I covered 9 initially. So I covered 9 tracks, it was a lot, especially being brand new to the show. The show, of course, has been around for a long time now, but when you bring someone brand new in to swing, it's a lot of work for everyone, because the dance captains have to put you in. They're in charge of teaching you the show. So it's a lot of work for them too, because they have to get all this information that's in their heads into your brain and your body. So it was a lot, but it was quite fun, very challenging and rewarding, really, too.
And how long did you rehearse before you did your first public performance?
Yes, I rehearsed just about 4 weeks. So for swings, I think for ensemble tracks. So if you have one of those tracks in a show that you do on a nightly basis, or every performance, then they usually do about 2 weeks. If you're a principal, like if you're playing Elphaba or Glinda, then you have about 4 weeks. And same with the swings. So I had about 4 weeks, and I actually, it was funny because I was supposed to not go on until Madison, which was the following city. Excuse me, but they actually needed me to go on because, stuff happens. And so I ended up going on a little bit early, which was great. It was unexpected. And I was like, okay, sometimes that's better because you don't have too much time to worry. So yeah.
That's incredible. And then after you were in the Wicked national tour, did you go straight from that to your first Broadway show?
I actually didn't. I had some of those the shows that I did in Sacramento actually kind of were in between. So I was on the second national tour of Wicked. And that's when I was swinging. And then I actually switched to the first national tour, and I did just one track for a while. So I did what's called the Witch's Mother track. And I did that, I did each tour for about a year and a half. And I primarily switched to the other tour. It worked out because there were some openings. But that tour was going through Sacramento, and also San Francisco. And I knew that was the closest I would ever get, really, to performing near my hometown. So when that opportunity came up, I was like, oh, this is amazing. So I kind of put the plan of going back to New York on hold, and I was like, let's do this part of this tour first. So I did that for about a year and a half. Then I was ready to go back. I went back to New York, and I went back, this was in the fall of 2013, and I again had a really rough go of it. I auditioned, and I had a really hard transition, going from being on the road for 3 years to being in one place and kind of figuring it out. But then the next spring, I ended up doing Sweet Charity and some of those other shows, the South Pacific, and I did Brigadoon that season. So that I was kind of like, okay, here we go. We're getting everything worked out again and kind of figured out. And then it was actually that fall when I went back to New York after that summer season in Sacramento. I actually, funny enough, auditioned for Radio City was doing a spring spectacular, and I auditioned for that, and I ended up getting cast in it. But I randomly, on a whim, auditioned for a show called Something Rotten, and ended up doing that instead. And so that was kind of the next year, and that was that was my debut, which was so special and such a fun experience. And again, I'm very glad I went to that audition too, which I almost didn't go to. Yes, and that's from the Tony Awards, which were just such a dream to be able to do that. I'm there next to Brad Oscar and Brian Darcy James. I was actually a swing in Something Rotten as well, and we swings really lucked out in the Macy's Day also, but the Tony Awards, because they stuck us kind of on the ends, but we ended up right in the middle. So we kind of lucked out there. I love this picture because Brian is looking at me like I'm crazy, as he should be. So it makes me laugh a lot. But this is from the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade. And this picture actually is a screenshot that one of my dear friends, Mark, took watching the parade. So that's what that's from, which is fun.
I'll never forget watching the Tony Awards and then watching the Macy's Day Parade and seeing my friend Courtney, and I was just like, ah!
Oh, thank you.
Get in here, there's Courtney, and your energy is just electric. I mean, look at Courtney. You are in it from every part of your body. I think that's something I have always admired in you as a performer, is that you give 110 from the top of your head to the bottoms of your feet, all the way out to the edges of your hands. And every single moment you are in it and living it and breathing it. It's just so beautiful.
Thank you. That's so kind. That means a lot. Thank you. It's fun. I mean, I love it. And it's very lucky to be able, as you know, it's lucky for when we're able to do something we love, no matter what that is. It's a cool thing. So, but thank you. I appreciate that.
Note too, it was really fun to get to see you in New York on Broadway in this show, and I was pregnant with Gordon, and
yes, that's right. Oh my gosh, yeah, that was so fun.
We took our baby moon to New York, and
yes.
Need to go see Courtney in Something Rotten. We have to do this. So kind to give us a backstage tour and to get to see all of your amazing costumes. And I love this picture of you, one of your costumes.
Thank you. This was actually, it's so funny. This picture was actually on my Broadway debut day, which funny enough, was actually 5 years ago tomorrow, was the date, which is so funny, May 23rd. So this was taken almost 5 years ago. And you can see on the right of the picture, there's like stars and balloons and flowers and stuff, because my castmates were so sweet. And for both my swing sister, Elizabeth, and myself, they just decked out our station for our debut, which was so special. So this was my first performance on, and I'm actually wearing the girl I was on for, Jenny. She was watching her children perform. Actually, they were doing a competition, so I went on for her, and I knew I was going on, which was so great. And my costumes weren't ready yet because it's a new show, and they do the swing costumes last, which makes sense. So I'm actually wearing Jenny's costume here, which is really funny. And of course, we got our own eventually, but it was kind of fun. I thought it was kind of neat to wear hers.
That's really special.
Yeah.
This is your swing sister here, right?
This is Beth, who is, she was in the ensemble, and this picture I thought was so funny. I found it recently, and in part of the show, we dress up as boys, and we're in these funny egg costumes. And so we took this picture right before we went up to be eggs at one point. And I just thought it was so funny because we still had our full beat makeup on, so everybody could kind of tell, but they tried to make it work. This is one of my dear friends, Linda. We actually met on the Wicked tour, and then we got to do Something Rotten together, which was so special. And this was at Radio City when we did right before we went on for the Tonys, which was really fun. And this is that same day too, just a group of us. We were just outside, ready to go in, do our thing.
Living the dream.
Living the dream. Yeah, it was wild. And this is actually at Macy's before the Macy's Day Parade, which it's really fun because I had never done it before, and I've never done it since, but Macy's is completely shut down to the public, but all the performers go through the store to get from like the trucks where you wait to the front where, where it happens. And so this was like, I guess, in front of Michael Kors. That just right in the store. So funny.
Wigs weigh?
The wigs, oh my God, they were amazing. They were pretty heavy, especially for some reason mine was really tall. And Jenny, who's next to me there, hers is pretty tall too. They were, how heavy? I don't really remember, but heavy enough to definitely feel it. Definitely, you could definitely feel. Yeah, you can see my wig is almost as tall as my head in that one. Kind of fun.
Your shoes.
Yeah, so our costume designer, completely brilliant. Greg Barnes is his name, and he's done many shows. His work was exquisite, and so the tap shoes were all built for us, and so much fun. And we actually had these red shoes were for the musical number, but it was a big tap show. Something Rottens a big tap show, and we had several pairs of tap shoes, and some of them were just gorgeous, just beautiful fabrics, and oh, they were so pretty. And we taped them, and we had to tape the bottoms because they got a little slick. But yeah, those are our tap shoes, which are so fun.
Wow, and I just want to share this picture of your family.
Oh, thank you. Yes, this was on the opening night. And that's my dad and mom are next to me, and my dear friend Jose, who also went to San Jose State. And he was friends with one of the investors on the producing team. So he was, and so we got a series of pictures, but this is from that night, and we just had so much fun. We'll never forget it. So it was really fun. It was April 22nd was the date. So the opening night happened, and I didn't go on for another month, but it was special nonetheless. So yeah, that's from opening night.
And so you were a swing for Something Rotten as well, and I have some of your swing tracks that you sent me.
Yeah.
Which, as a performer, I geeked out over them. When you and I talked the other day, I was saying to you, it takes an incredible brain to be able to learn not just one track, but multiple tracks of the show, and then to not know which night you're going to be going on for which character, and to constantly be on standby in the theater. So
yeah,
you sent me several. Which do you want to start with?
Oh gosh, let's see. Let's do, did I send you Jenny Hill's?
You did. Yeah, I've got it right here.
Okay, perfect. Let's do, I'm gonna turn the heater off for just a second.
Sure.
So it's not so loud.
Oh, you know what? It's being really finicky. It's not, for some reason, it's not showing that's interesting. You know what? How about, while I figure this out, you talk about Jenny Hill, and then we'll pull this up.
Perfect. I love it. Yes. So Jenny is the track that I debuted in. So it was so fun because the way that they split us up. So Elizabeth. So we had a Beth, who one of those pictures was, and then Elizabeth, who was my swing sister. And she and I, when we first went into rehearsals, our director, choreographer Casey Nicola, who's brilliant, he kind of said, he was like, okay, let's split this up. So we had 6 girls to cover, and we both covered all 6 of them, but he was like, let's do 3 and 3 just to start with. So I focused on Jenny and Beth and Chelsea were my first 3. So Jenny, so this is Jenny's track sheet, and so it's kind of interesting. Everybody has kind of their own way of doing it, and kind of logging your swing Bible, as we call it, and notating it. So I liked to have kind of in red, I have things that are off stage. So like if I'm getting my wig on, or if I'm changing, or a prop or something like that, and then the rest is what's happening on stage. And you can see I kind of like bolded all of the different parts. And we all kind of come up with our own lingo Most of which, a lot of performing people would be able to figure out kind of what it means. But it mostly was just so that if we're on, especially last minute, we could just kind of glance at it and be like, okay, I'm between Brian and Stacy. Okay, great, go. So you can kind of just have like a really quick overview and kind of highlight. And then of course more kind of things. And especially we were at the St. James Theater, and it's a very small space. It's now bigger, they've renovated, but all of the changes were very specific because the space was so tight. So you can see like with that quick change that it was all very specific. First you do your right shoe, then you do your left shoe. And that was different for each person. So you kind of had to, what we call trail them. So you'd follow them during a show to see exactly what they do. So you can copy that basically when you're on. And especially, I like to think when you're swinging, you want it to seem very smooth. Like it's a very smooth transition so that nobody's like, oh, so-and-so's not here and somebody else is here. You want to try to like kind of just go in, go out, do your thing, but not really ruffle any feathers. So to do that, you just have to be really cognizant of course, what each person does on stage, but also off stage. And also to help, prevent, anything bad from happening safety-wise, because you have set pieces and, all that stuff off stage. So, but yeah, so yeah.
Incredible, Courtney. So not only were you following everything that had to happen on stage, but you were also doing the exact same thing, including the way that you changed your shoes.
Yes, exactly. Yes.
Cool.
Thank you. Yeah, it's wild. It's, it's a, and you have wig changes too, which most of those are on here as well. But yeah, it's definitely crazy. It's fun. It's definitely a fun, challenging experience.
I was telling you earlier, I don't have the brain. You really have to have an incredible brain to be able to remember all of these things. And I was telling you earlier in the week that I was always so impressed by the girls who swung at Beach Blanket, because like there would be nights where someone would, like, in the middle of the show, they would have to jump into another part or between shows. Did you have an experience like that where you were waiting in the wings?
Yes.
You got thrown in last minute?
Yes, actually, that's a great point. Because sometimes it doesn't happen before the show; it happens during the show. And that happened to me a couple times on Wicked, on the Wicked tour when I was swinging. It never happened to me in Something Rotten, funny enough, but it actually has happened to me several times in Wicked. In the New York company, I understudy Nessa Rose, and funny enough, I've gone on for Nessa 3 times, either mid-show or at like the 5-minute call or at the 15-minute call. So I've gotten pretty good at doing like a really fast Nessa, getting into costume. My friends now, my castmates in the girls' dressing room, they've seen it happen so many times that they're like, oh, it's Nessa, just add water. And so that's kind of their running joke. And, of course, you never want anything bad to happen to the person who's playing Nessa, but somebody has to go on. So I actually, the week before I left New York for this current situation we're in, actually, it was 2 days prior, our Nessa Rose fell down the stairs backstage during the show. And so I actually went on for just the second act. And thankfully she was okay. But it's one of those wild things. And she actually gave me a heads up on stage, because she wheels by the track I was doing. And she was like, I just went on the stairs. So we were in the background. And she was like, so just a heads up, we'll keep you posted. I was like, okay. So anyway.
So then the second act, you went on for Nessa, and then someone went in for your track.
Exactly. So my friend Antoinette, who's also our dance captain and a swing, she went on for me in the second act. So yeah, it's all like a puzzle piece, kind of situation. So, and our swings go on all the time in the New York company and on the road too. And they go on mid-show a lot too. because stuff happens, and so yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy.
Then how did you end up getting cast in Wicked on Broadway?
So a great question. So I was actually in Something Rotten at the time, and I funny enough, my friend Antoinette, who I just said, who went on for me, that particular show, when that happened, she actually, I ended up back at Wicked because they were looking for kind of a temporary person to cover for Antoinette's maternity leave. And it just so happened that casting and my agent and everybody kind of was connected, and she was going to go have a baby. And so they actually bumped my dear friend Sterling into her track. So she was more familiar with swinging the Broadway company. So they bumped Sterling into Antoinette's track. And she had, I believe she had swung there before. She had swung on the road as well and dance captained. And then they brought me in for Sterling's track. So I kind of, it was a very kind of last minute sort of situation. But it ended up working out. And so I went over kind of as a temporary, it was 10 months sort of cover. And then I've actually kind of done a bunch of different stuff that's opened up and whatnot since joining the New York company. But that's how it first started. So it was so Antoinette could have a baby, and actually, funny enough, now if I were in New York, I would actually be covering. I have been covering Sterling's maternity leave, so it's kind of fun because it's it's a room with a lot of moms, which is really neat. So yeah, it's a great. Yeah, it's cool.
Courtney, I've got some pictures that you sent me of Wicked that I would love for you to share and explain.
Yes, absolutely. So this is a photo that my friend Brittany, who's our Glinda standby, she took this of me. I was on for about a week last October because our Nessa Rose had a planned vacation, and so she took this photo of me, and she's fantastic. It's a little funny and fun. The Nessa Rose and the Elphaba and the Glinda standby, the three of them share a room. So we were together a lot, which was so fun. So we did a little photo shoot one night, and she was like, "Now do this." And I was like, "Okay, great." So this is one of the photos that she captured. This is the second act governor's mansion scene when Nessa Rose has become the governor and is a bit jaded and bitter. So it's a bit more serious than the first act.
And as a performer, I noticed right away, you don't have a wig on.
I don't. You're so right. I'm so glad you brought that up. Funny enough, Nessa Rose is the only girl of the principals anyway, and one of two girls in the show who uses her own hair. And we have one girl in the ensemble who uses her own hair as well. But it's funny because the Nessa Rose dresser, my friend Terry, she explained this to me actually when I was on one time. Or maybe when we were just backstage talking at one point, and she said that Michelle Federer, who was the original Nessa Rose back in 2003, she came into rehearsal one day and she had her hair down. She had she's brunette, so she had her hair, and she had like a blue headband. And the director, our director Joe, loved it and said, "That's what I want." And she was like, "Okay, great. So we'll make a wig like this." And he was like, "No, you're going to use your own hair." So she was like, "Oh, okay." So it's just kind of been a thing that no matter what color hair you have, every person who covers it or plays the role uses their own hair. So that's kind of how that came to be.
I bet you're so glad for all of your ballet training. You got that beautiful ballet fun.
Thank you. Yes, it's so funny. And we have my friend Cherie, who's one of my hairdressers, and wig people at the show. She does the bun and she gets it all, like perfect, which I'm so grateful for, especially because I had bangs at this time in this photo. And so, keeping those down was a little tricky, but she's wonderful. And it's actually funny because normally, so in this photo, I have a wig. So my ensemble track, we all have our separate wigs and our kind of wig plot. And it's actually funny, speaking of like switching things out mid-show, in a normal situation for most other characters, it wouldn't be such a big deal because you have your wig prep in and you just switch. But each time lately I've gone on for Nessa, I've already had my wig prep in and my wig on, and then I've had to reverse it. So that's always a kind of funny situation too. But you know, they always figure it out. That was from actually my Nessa debut on Broadway. So that was in December of 2018, and they put like a little slip in the program, the playbill. So it's actually funny because everyone's like, well, you're not Jake Boyd, but my name is you know, above there. But that's kind of fun. I think my mom kept that little slip, which was fun.
That's so special. I love this too. Very serious Nessa Rose.
Thank you. Yes, this was my debut day as well. My best friend Laurel, who at the time was the Elphaba standby, she took this photo my first time on. And I think it's kind of a funny picture, but I love that she took it, and you know, I think it's kind of fun. She was like, "Okay, be serious." So that was my attempt at, you know, being serious, which is a little funny.
Anyone who knows you knows you are always smiling, always laughing, always full of light and beautiful energy.
Oh, thank you.
I think of Courtney.
Thank you. Yes, this was actually when I was swinging the show. So this was my Emerald City costume, and this was my swing plot. So I've had several different costume plots. Each track has their own, and the swings have their own too. So if we go on, we have our own set of costumes. So this is this is actually one of my favorite costumes in the whole show. I felt really lucky I got to wear it, but I think it's so pretty, and just fun and kind of interesting. So yeah, that's my green scene costume, as we like to call it.
Wait, Courtney, you bring up a really good point. You know, when we go to the theater, you know, and we think like, oh, we're paying for the tickets and everything. But really, I mean, we're also paying, our ticket cost pays for every single actor to have their own costumes so that they look their best, so that the audience has the very best experience possible.
Absolutely. It's so true. Yeah, the costumes, you know, have such a big impact. It's very true. Yeah.
And then I love this one.
Yes, this was so fun. So this was last fall, last October, when I got to go on for like about a week. And we did like a little photo shoot after the show one night with these two girls who are just a dream. Jenna Claire, who's Glinda, she's actually still our Glinda. And Hannah was, she was done in the show a few months back, but she was just fabulous. And so it was so fun because I got to get pictures with them, with the girls, and it was so cool. So yeah, this was our little photo shoot that we did, which was yeah.
So Courtney, tell everyone what you're up to now.
Yes, great question. So I have been, until the current situation we're in, I have been in New York doing Wicked. And as soon as things kind of started getting a little bit crazy, I actually left New York and I came to be with my family. So I have gotten a lot of time with them, which has been so amazing. And doing a lot of like house and yard projects, and kind of getting my hands dirty out in the garden, and repairing decks with my dad, and doing all kinds of stuff, cooking with my mom. So I've just been really spending a lot of family time, which has been really a blessing. And I'm trying to teach myself guitar. So I'm trying to use this time to kind of learn a new skill. And of course I try to practice, you know, I take the Zoom dance classes when I can. And just like you're going to be providing or are providing. So I try to keep up with that, and yoga, and, you know, various things to stay busy. But so that's kind of my new normal.
It's funny that you should talk about your yoga and your Zoom classes. Jordan Ari Gross actually asked on the Facebook feed, he said, how do you keep up your training while you're performing? And yeah, so when you are in the show, how do you continue training?
Great question. Yes, so I like to do, I love yoga. I think it's a great kind of cross training for dance and all kinds of things. So I like to do yoga. I love taking, I try to take dance classes while I'm in the city also, or while I'm not, because now they're being offered, which is amazing. We have this technology. So I love to take different classes. I take a lot at Steps on Broadway, that's my favorite place to take. There's so many great studios in New York, and great classes offered. My favorite is a jazz class taught by Deb Roche. It's so fun. So I like to take that class. And then we're really lucky. A lot of the Broadway shows have a membership to a gym, an Equinox gym, right kind of in Times Square, really. And so we get to use that, which is great. So we can go in and, kind of just train that way. So that's kind of sort of how most of us will kind of keep up with that. And of course, everybody has other kind of little things that they do too. There's so many fitness gyms in New York and everywhere. So we do that. And same with like vocal training and acting training. I have my voice teacher is actually from California also, and he's great. So I go to him on a weekly or bi-weekly basis, depending. And then I take acting classes too. So I try to, keep up with it as best I can. So
That's
kind of
fantastic. And then Renee asked a question.
Oh, Renee! Hi, Renee!
Renee's question is, because you perform both in the ensemble as well as a principal performer, which is your favorite? Which do you prefer, being in the ensemble or being a principal?
That's a great question. I love that. Honestly, I love both. I think it really depends on the show. And I think that there's something when you're an understudy or a swing, I think there's something really exhilarating about going on for a part you don't normally do. So like understudying in SROs, for instance, each time I go on, there's a little more adrenaline. It's a little more, nerves and excitement, just because I'm not as used to it. That said, my ensemble track, both of the ensemble tracks I've done in New York are so much fun. And honestly, both of those tracks have way more stage time than Nessa Rose. And they really are such different things. I love the situation I currently have because in Wicked in New York, because my ensemble track is a ton of dancing, and I have some like vocal stuff too. And then Nessa is obviously no dancing because she's in a wheelchair most of the time. So it's cool because I kind of get to do both. But to answer your question, I really think it does depend on the show. In Something Rotten, the ensemble was, in my opinion, what made the show. And I watched it a lot since I was swinging. And of course, the leads were fantastic. But it was so fun to do that show as an ensemble member. So both are fantastic. But I feel like you can't really go wrong. But I do think it's kind of show specific, I guess.
I love that. Courtney, you are in the location where you're going to be teaching tap for us.
Yes!
You're going to be teaching our teen Broadway tap. Everybody, you need to sign up for Courtney's class, y'all, because she can tap circles. Tapping to Courtney Iventosch, I was like, oh, I thought I could tap. Well, I really need to get back into class. I'll never forget those rehearsals for 42nd Street where Renee was choreographing and you and I were in the show together. And
yes.
man, we were just sweating our faces off every day.
It was so fun. I have such fun memories of that. It was just so great. So fun.
And to have an opportunity to get to take tap with you, let me just say, I will be on your Zoom calls from my living room tapping with you. So,
oh, yay! I'm so glad.
Just show everybody what's behind you and where they're going to be tap dancing with you this summer.
Yes. So I'm so excited to be teaching for you and with all of you. We'll get to tap and dance and all that. Yes. So I'm actually in my dad's airplane hangar. He flies a small plane, but we actually have two planes in here right now. So behind me is my dad's plane, and then his flight instructor, Amy's plane, is there. So we're going to be tapping with the airplanes because, why not? It's a great space. I'm going to put down my tap wood, and we're going to tap with the airplanes. So this is where we'll be.
Jazzy Chaperone. We'll be tapping
Exactly.
with and Jazzy Chaperone.
Exactly. It's perfect. We got the set, set included.
Oh, well, Courtney, we are just so thrilled. Thank you so much for taking the time to be with us today. I'm going to have Haley come back in and just see
Of course.
if you got any other questions.
Yes. Thank you for having me. It's been such a pleasure. I love reminiscing with you.
Oh my gosh, it's been so much fun to reminisce with you.
Yay. I love it. Oh, just such a treat. Thank you for having me.
Courtney, before you go, because I know, so tap dance, I love tap, and I'm somebody who's so intimidated by tap because I feel like when people are good at tap, it truly blows my mind the amount of sounds that you your feet. So just in anticipation of this fantastic class you're going to be teaching, can you share a little bit about why you love tap and how you share that love in your teaching?
Yes, absolutely. I love your question. And yes, I love tap for so many reasons. But what I love about it is that it's so musical. And I think it's so neat that we can not only have a visual art going on, but also an audio one. And so I think that's something that's really cool about tap. And I think it's, all the rhythms are so fun. So I love to kind of explore how we can use our feet to like make different sounds and connect with music or not if we're doing something a cappella. But I think there's just something so fun about just using your feet and sometimes just like stomping around and just making noise. I think it's just so much fun. So that's kind of sort of where I get the love of it from. What I'm going to try to do in the class is we'll do a little something rotten. We'll learn some of the choreo from that. And we'll try to do maybe a little bit of 42nd Street also. And then we'll kind of do just some other fun stuff that, just stuff that's coming out of my mind, hopefully. And just and of course work on technique too. But I really want to share with you guys something rotten because it's actually, it's actually fairly simple tap technique. It's just really fast. And something, because I, like you, get really intimidated by tap also. And even still, if I'm in a tap audition, depending on how it's taught and all of that stuff, I get so intimidated because some of it is so fast. So I try to kind of break it down so that it is a little less intimidating. And our dance captain for Something Rotten is brilliant. And he was so good about how he conducted the whole audition process, the teaching process, all of that, that I try to emulate that so that we can, learn it together and it's not so fast.
This is so awesome. Thank you, Courtney.
You're so welcome. Absolutely.
Courtney,
Yes.
thank you so much for taking the time today, and we cannot wait to see you in your tap class with Performing Academy, which is starting the week of June 8th. You'll be tap dancing with Courtney's Airplanes and learning a little something rotten and 2nd Street from a Broadway performer. You just can't miss this opportunity. It is once in a lifetime. When do you ever get to take class with a Broadway performer who is currently on Broadway? This is something that we really need to take advantage of as our training right now. So make sure to sign up, performingacademy.com. Haley's going to put the link in the comments as well. And Courtney, thank you again. And I love you, and I'm so happy for you. And
Thank you so much.
bye.
I will. Oh my gosh. Yes. My mom's sitting right here. She's next to me. She says hi, sends her love. And thank you so much for having me. It's really been such a treat.
We'll see you in a couple weeks for your tap class.
Yes. Thank you so much. Sounds great. Lots of love.
Lots of love.